So just a couple minutes late for walking into class. I apologize that on Monday, for some reason, the live feed didn't go through. So if you wanted to watch the lecture on PLCs, you missed it. But I think we'll take some time today to talk about that a little bit too. Morning, everyone. Thank you for being here. I don't have my cool little tripod thing, so I'm just going to hold the camera. I may get tired of holding the camera and ask one of you guys to hold the camera later. But for now, we'll do this. I lied. Here, let me log into the computer. I lied to you guys on Monday. What did I lie about? Yeah, when I was going to post the exam. But if you have a computer and you log on now, you'll see it's posted. And what I want to do this morning, first thing, is go through the questions on the exam and make sure that if you have questions about the questions, like I didn't type them clearly, that you ask me those questions. So let me get logged in here and we'll do that. Yeah, that's not my password. Apparently that's not my password either. Maybe it's not my username. Caps lock. I was willing to believe I typed the password wrong because the week before I went on vacation, the day I left, I had to change the password. I knew that wasn't going to work. So I wrote it down in sort of in a code. I just wrote the password in a code on the whiteboard in my office so that when I walked in, I would recognize the code and know what my password was. And then I wrote it actually on a piece of paper and I put it in a file drawer in somebody else's office so that while I was on vacation, if I couldn't remember it, I could call them and they could tell me what it was. Problem is time change. When I was going to upload the stuff for you for last Thursday, it was like 2 in the morning here. And so there was nobody that could tell me what my password was. And that's why I didn't upload any stuff for you last Thursday. That's why we had the announcement that we didn't have class on Thursday instead. So I sorry about that. Sorry about that. System on. Nope. Mute off. PC on. Okay. All right, so here we go. Let me get the Canvas site up. That password again. Okay, that's the old password. That's the new password. Okay, it's up there. Created manufacturing. Assignments. Does it show up in assignments? Nope, it shows up in quizzes. Oh, it does show up in assignments, right? See, oh yeah, there it is. It's weird, the interface on Canvas, I can't create a quiz from the assignments tab. I have to go to the quizzes tab to create a quiz. But all quizzes and assignments show up in the assignments tab for you to look at them. Okay. The best way to not inadvertently show you what I think the correct answers are is for me to do the quiz, right? I can go to, yeah, I don't like the way the previews. I will go to the student view, settings, become a student. Oh, this will make sure I actually turn it on too. Because if the student can't see it, then it's not there. Oh, because it's not due yet. That makes sense. I haven't used this as a student very often. Take the quiz. 13 questions, 10 points. The first question. Does that work? I think so. This exam is to be completed as an individual exercise. State in your own words you understand that. Is that clear? Okay. It's worth half a point. So there's people have studied this, and they say that, like, if at the end of doing something, they ask you, did you cheat? Whether you cheated or not, you're going to answer the question no. But if before you start doing something, they ask you, are you going to cheat, and you answer the question no, then you pretty much don't cheat. They've studied this. I don't know those statistics that says it. So yeah, and so the only thing you can't do, according to this, is talk to each other about the quiz answers, right? You can use any book, you use Google, you can use any notes, you can go watch the videos for the class, whatever you want to do, just don't talk to each other about the answers until after both of you agree that you're done. The quiz allows 2 attempts. I used to always say the only reason for the second attempt is if you accidentally submitted it before you were done. I've backed off that policy. If you don't like how it went the first time and you want to do it again, go ahead and do it again. I don't think that's going to be an issue with this because there aren't that many automatically graded questions. But let's see. All right, question 2. We spent like the first week and a half talking about process variables in manufacturing and CAM and stuff like that. So we get some questions about that. So what do process variables, which process variables influence part geometry or surface finish? Select all that, all of these are select all that apply. Question 3, that makes sense though. Just select the ones that apply. All right, question 3, what are the 4 most commonly referred to process variables in machining operations? And so those are the process variables that we say, these are the ones that directly influence how much power it takes to do the cutting, how much force is at the cutting operation. So this is not, so, I mean, honestly, the time of day that you press cycle start, that's a process variable. That's something that you get to select, right? Process variables are things that we get to select as the process engineer. But that's not one of the most important process variables. It could be the one that makes your parts be out of spec. There was, a couple years ago, we worked on a project with, I want to say it was Kodak, but don't quote me on that. Don't quote me on that, internet. A couple years ago, we worked on this project with a pretty large company, and the parts that they made in this one window of time, from like 1:30 in the afternoon to 2 o'clock in the afternoon, would be out of spec on surface finish during that time. Rest of the day, 24 hours a day, they could make good parts, but in that window, they had trouble making good parts, so they always had parts that fell out in that window of time. And it turned out it was because that was when this big train went by the factory, and the vibration through the ground from the train vibrated the machine enough that it was actually not making bad parts. It was the surface measurement device that was getting vibrated, so they were rejecting good parts because the train was going by when they were measuring those parts. So that's can be an important process variable, but it's not what we're looking for here. We're looking for the ones that everybody talks about. So the most important process variables. What else we got? Manufacturing process variables again. Then again, just pick the best answers. All right, so here's the first essay question that's other than don't cheat. And this is, state in your own words, what is the function of CAM software? So I'm thinking you can do this in a sentence, right? This is not write a book. This is a sentence, maybe 2 sentences. Next one is, if your role is to choose a CAM software package in your new company, what are the factors that you want to consider in choosing that CAM software package? So what are the things that you need to know and understand in order to select the right package? 5, find 5 possible choices of CAM packages for a shop that does 3-axis and 2-axis, 3-axis milling, 2-axis turning. Google will answer this question for you. So go out and find. Should we change this question? Should we say, no. was going to say, and tell me which one you would choose. You don't have enough time to find that out. Because to find out which one you would choose, you would want to go try them all. You'd want to get pricing quotes. You would want to understand the service that the software providers give you. So, yeah. Your job, look at this. You have a job again. Your job is to automate CNC programming using CAM package like Esprit. And so this is like that lab assignment we're working on with the API stuff, right? So your job is to do that at the highest level. Describes the steps you're going to need to implement once the part file that needs the CNC code generated has been selected. So don't worry about user interface things like the user has to tell us which part we're going to do the code on, right? This is once you have the geometry or once you have the solid model file, what are the things that you need to consider in order to create the code to make that part? You look confused. You look a little bit confused. Oh, no. Or you were formulating the answer? Got it. Does this make sense? Does anyone want to, and I'm not opposed to talking about it a little bit more right here if it doesn't make sense. So I don't want all the nitty-gritty details. I don't want to hear, so I don't want to say, using this library from this thing, select this operator. But at the highest level, what are the things you have to do? All right, so what else have we got? This one should be pretty easy. What's a robot? What makes it a robot? Or what is a robot? What makes it different from an automation system? All right, we've talked about that in class for days probably. If your task is to design an automation system that may or may not include robots, there's a comma missing, what questions do you need answered before you start your design? This is very similar to the exercise we did in class and then turned into a homework again. This is what do you want to know in order to design an automation system? And again, we've gone through that and talked about it, done it as an exercise. What factors are important when automating a job shop? Now, we talked about this in class for a day, I think. So what factors are important when automating a job shop? And how is that different from automating a factory that's designed to make one part or one family of parts? And so what's a difference? What are the two different kinds of companies we're talking about here? Maybe explain to me what a job shop is. Make sure everybody understands. Yep.
A job shop can create any amount of parts, like different types of parts. It's not focused on one product.
So yeah, a job shop's not focused on one product or even one customer, right? A job shop will typically have 10 to 100 individual customers, and from day to day or from week to week, they don't necessarily know what parts they're making. They may be making parts that they've made before. They may be making parts that are brand new to them. So it may be maybe you send in parts for a prototype for something that you're making. Maybe you send in that we need 1,000 of this little widget that you made for us last year, right? So they don't know a priori what parts they're going to make. And so those kind of companies need to automate also, right? Those companies are going to fail if they're unable to automate their processes and their systems. So and then a factory, I'm talking about, so it's a pretty good example here locally. There's IPG Photonics. So they make lasers. And they make lasers, one of their products is lasers for cutting metal, for example, but they make the laser itself, not the system that does the metal cutting. But they're sort of vertically integrated. They make all the mechanical components, not just the optical components. So they know what they're going to be making. They have one of their processes, one of their parts that they make, they have 7 large Mazak machine tools running 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, making the same part. So automating that process is significantly different from automating the process where you don't know what the part's going to be from day to day, or you can't predict in advance. So that's the difference I want to see there. And then question number 12. In your own, and we talked about this in the class last Monday, 2 Mondays in a row we've talked about this in the class. In your own words, ask a question that you think someone who has successfully completed this class should be able to answer. And do that in a video. So create a little video, upload it as the answer to this question. Question 13 says, again, because I want you to do two. In your own words, ask a question that you think someone who has successfully completed the class should be able to answer. Yes?
Question 11, it said to upload a file. What format would you want?
A video format that I can read.
I mean video.
Yeah, it's a video.
The question before these two videos, you mean?
That said upload a file?
Yeah.
It shouldn't have. I know how it did, though. I'll fix that question. Has anybody started the exam? So unless somebody, here's a problem with Canvas. Once somebody has started the exam, if I change a question, like change it to essay instead of file upload, the person who has already started the exam will only see the original version. You can't fix it, even if it's a typo. Let me do that right now, before we forget. Mute. Because I need to... Okay. I'm unauthorized. Don't click the back button when you're in student view. You're unauthorized. Leave student view. There we go. Leave. Okay. Edit. See, it's good that we did this. You could fix my broken questions. Edit. I say. Update question. Save. Okay. Now back to oh, that's how that works? I can just click the resume button when I click on the quiz again? Look at that, I never knew that. Okay, and did I fix it? Because our student had opened the quiz before I fixed the question. See? I told you that happens. All right, I have reset the test student. He's got a lot of past due assignments. Ah, good. It's fixed. Okay. So is there anything about the quiz then that you guys have questions about? Yeah.
What's the difference between 12 and 13?
I want you to do it twice. That's why the second one says again, to reduce confusion there. Yeah, I want you to give me two of those questions. Anything else? So I set it for due midnight Saturday. Is that good for you guys? And then Sunday morning, I will post part 2, which will be due midnight Tuesday. And part 2 is going to be answering the questions that your classmates suggested. So from the uploaded questions from Saturday night, I will choose the questions that I send back out to you guys. Okay? How's everything else going? How's the PLC Lab going? Anybody finished? You finished? How was it? What's that? What was rough? Oh, the fourth part is difficult. Yeah. Is that the silo? Or no? Oh, okay. Anybody else? Nope. Everybody else is working on it? What's it say? When does it say that's due? Tomorrow? Does that still work? Does tomorrow still work for that? It's not like the software is going to get deleted off the computers. So, okay, we'll just push that out till Tuesday too. If anybody's still working on it, wants a break. You know, I have mixed feelings about that. I've had professors say you can hand in stuff like the day after the term's over too. Anybody ever had that come up? What's your opinion on hand stuff in the day after the term's over? Depends on if you feel like you need that extra time.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because I was always the person who, regardless of whether I needed that extra time, I would take that extra time, right? And then that night where the term's been over now for several hours, and all of your roommates are having a party, and you're in your room trying to finish that last assignment, which you really didn't want to do in the first place, which is why you left it till last. Yeah. That's why I always hesitate to do stuff like that. With that said, if somebody has a hardship or actually needs extra time, reach out in advance, not after the time has run out. And I can make accommodations. We do have hard deadlines for submitting grades for people that are graduating. But I definitely want to work with you, not against you. What do you guys, so everybody's at least started the PLC exercise? Anybody that hasn't started it yet? Anybody that was willing? I was going to say, anybody that's willing to admit that they haven't started it yet?
Yeah, we did get to a computer.
Okay. Yeah, it's only the ones in 105 that have that software installed. Depending on how it works out with this class, if it works out, we'll make sure that it gets rolled out to all the computers next year. Just got to get the school to pay for it. It's cheap money. They'll pay for it. So what do you guys think about PLCs? People that have been working on it. What's your comment on PLCs?
Really different way of looking at it. Like kind of
So a different way of looking at programming.
yeah.
Okay, anybody else have general feedback on it? So what's different, do you feel?
Well, I mean, I'm more used to looking at the actual code and then looking at PLC like that logic and be like, oh, this is an action. This is actually doing.
Oh, so what you're saying is it's more like high level language. Whereas there used to be some people, and this must still exist, but like really high level programming languages where the person programming is interacting basically with icons and stuff like that, and then in the background it's making C code or something like that. They used to be able to buy visual programming packages, they called them, or something like that, years ago. I don't know if that's still a thing.
Still using them in some classes.
You do? Oh yeah, like LabVIEW is definitely a visual programming package. Yeah, I don't love LabVIEW. And part of it's because years ago I had a consulting job where I was required to use LabVIEW. And in order to make the instrument work, we had to do very complex math, and it's hard to do very complex math inside LabVIEW. Likewise, it would be hard to do very complex math inside that ladder logic program. We're using the Allen Bradley one, right? Yeah, I think it is the Logix 500 or something. So it is very difficult to do very high-level math there. So if you had to, with that said, and the way I solved the problem in the LabVIEW exercise was I actually wrote DLLs using C++ probably, that LabVIEW could then call that DLL, pass it the numbers, get passed back the answer, and then proceed with its thing. So likewise in the ladder logic programs, if you had to do that kind of stuff, I mean, you could do, there are more advanced math functions in there, but it is hard to do math in the ladder logic. The other, what else is different about that ladder logic that anybody's noticed from, and so raise your hand if you had done other programming stuff before using ladder logic. Be proud. Be proud. I once had the job title senior software developer. Job titles are cheap. They don't actually cost anything to give out to people. But what else did you... So the other thing that's really important about that ladder logic is the way that it gets processed. And so section 4 is the one where you're doing the bits. And so you can change logic bits and things like that. So if you're halfway down the ladder, you can change the logic bit that represents the state of a switch that you looked at before. Did you know that? You don't actually have to go physically change the position of the switch. You can change the logic bit that represents to the PLC what the position of the switch is. And it won't change back to the actual position of the switch until the ladder finishes, goes back to the top, and gets to the line of code where it examines that switch. So it's possible because of those kind of things where you can think you've told it to do something, but it won't do that until it gets to the end of the ladder, comes back to the top. And so that's another thing that comes up with ladder logic. It's actually designed that way on purpose, and it's so that it's more robust in that industrial situation. And that's really all these PLCs are, is they're an industrial or a robust microcomputer. Yeah.
I mean, debugging is actually pretty easy, despite everything else. It seems like one screw.
Yeah. Yeah. So, and I think the other thing that, especially when they developed that software, is ladder logic existed before they had the fancy software that showed you all the lights on and stuff like that. Ladder logic is a thing for programming PLCs from when you would put the programs in on tape cards. But it does make it really easy to debug because you can live see what's the position of a switch, what's the state of a bit, and that's designed so that somebody without a programming degree, without an engineering degree, can actually debug those programs and sort out where are the bad sensors. Most of the people in industry that interact with these PLCs are electricians, so not somebody with a software background, something like that. Anything else? How about the API stuff? How's that going? Yes or no? No? It's tough? Ooh, has anybody finished that? I think you guys have finished it. Yeah, you haven't submitted it? I would just submit it, then it's done. Okay. Yeah, that was basically what I wanted to do today, was go over the test. Talk about those things, answer any questions you guys had about PLC's ladder logic. I feel really sad that the video didn't work on Monday. Anybody else sad? Is that why everybody's here today, because the video didn't work on Monday? There's a lot more people here today than there were on Monday. No? You're all here today because we thought we were going to talk about the exam. Yeah. What should we do on Monday when we meet next week? What do you guys want to do on Monday when we meet next week? I could add another question to the exam that makes you required to tell me the answer. What do you guys want to do? Any ideas? America, what should we do next week? You have no idea.
Maybe we can have like a general help session.
General help session?
Or anything that's still
Anybody that's still toughing it out on the last two exam questions, or the API stuff, or the PLC stuff? We can do that. Most of the stuff that's still open at that point is lab related. Do you guys want to do that here, or do you want to do it in the lab? What are we going to interact with if we do it in the lab? There is an ME 1800 lab scheduled at this time, right? Not on Monday? You're right, not on Monday. So on Monday, we won't conflict with anybody else if we go use the lab. All right, so on Monday, let's meet in the lab instead of in here. And we can do general questions about the exam. You can pick on Merrick if you got stuck with his question to answer, and ask him why he asked you to answer such a hard question. No? You're not going to ask him to answer a hard question?
I didn't think about it.
You haven't done it yet.
I saw it.
Okay. All right. Course evaluation forms. If you want to make the class better for you guys, it's too late. Right? If you wanted to make the class better for you guys, you needed to give me feedback as we were going so that I could change my style of operations. But you could potentially make the course better for future generations. They say I'm not supposed to be in the room when you fill these out because it might affect my grading of you. That's pretty ridiculous. It wouldn't affect my grading, but I don't mind leaving. I do need to get a volunteer to bring them to the registrar's office, and we can go in that direction. Perfect. I have a volunteer. That's one bonus point on your final exam now. And actually, the feedback is important. Feedback is good. So I encourage you to fill this out. I'm going to go ahead and stop the live video feed because I don't think we need to show me live handing out forms. And I thank you guys all for being here.